so that the water gets off the surface and doesn't
Well, you look how good Mariah River Road is now, because they put the rock and the clay on it.
It needs a thicker
That's
pavement.
all you've got.
Yeah, it needs a thicker pavement so it will carry the load. I don't believe it needs to be sealed, and there's no way I'll be initiating anything like that.
Thank you, Bruce. One question here.
I just want to confirm the grading will it be done pre-holidays or post-holidays?
Post-holidays.
That's what they always say.
Post-holidays. It's for the residents, not just the tourists.
Yeah, but it's always getting done pre-holidays.
No, it was done once, sorry. Just
So
before.
many times, heaps more times than post.
I've listened to the General Manager's response to that exact question, or almost word for word that question. It's, and essentially, yes, the actual in-structure is after. After, but the reality is weather conditions affect when they do it. That's the work schedule affects when they do it. So while that's in there, the reality is sometimes yes, it doesn't happen exactly on the day they say it's going to.
No, that's right. But I mean, I've noticed over the years that it's been pre a lot more to post. Definitely.
There is a resolution on the books in council to do it after the school holidays.
Right, sure. That'll do.
Right. Question here, Rose.
I'm pretty concerned that council has changed what used to be the 355 committees.
Yes.
And I belong to an art group which started about 20 years ago. And our group and every other group who uses this hall now has to provide its own public liability insurance. And our little group can't afford that, and so that group now will no longer be able to use this hall weekly. Jenny?
Answer there, Jenny.
Question, Rose. Are you your organisation, your art group?
Yeah.
They're no longer a 355 committee, and that's why you need to have your own public liability. Is that the issue?
Yeah.
Why are you?
Has given us,
I know. I've just been through it too.
And I think worth mentioning is that the whole committee, over time, has applied for grants. So the new kitchen has come through the whole committee. The people sitting on these green padded chairs, one of our group actually covered all of those, took them a few at a time to her place and physically covered them. So I think we feel pretty let down.
Can I just speak to this, please?
Yes.
Rosie, so how many groups were there that were separate 355 committees? Or were they all one?
I think the ratepayers was covered. We didn't have
We can't come here anymore.
Okay, all right.
We go to the rate.
The other thing is now, just let me think this through.
Yeah.
Is the whole committee now a 355 committee or not?
No.
Why not? That's something we need to take up with council.
Melanie, of course.
I'll talk to Melanie or to Kathy actually. Jenny, we need to talk.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm listening to you.
The reason that you're not a 355 committee is when this manager came in, he cut them all out.
Yeah.
Simple. That's the truth. The whole truth, nothing but the truth.
355 committees are subject. Well, the greatest advantage in having a 355 committee is the fact that you do have public liability coverage under council's public liability, and apparently the new insurers have insisted that these rules that Melanie's given us have to be obeyed, or else you're not a 355. And I believe it's a huge disincentive to go through all that paperwork and have to do all the...
It's a disincentive to have meetings like this, I'll just tell you quietly. I had to go and get $500 worth of insurance to have this bloody meeting today, but I'm not whinging. Anyway, I'll ask you a question.
I'll just say that what the new council needs to do is have a look at this. This is a concern right across the Macleay, and we need to review what is required, and we need to work through with the community to make it so that we can re-establish the 355 committees that are truly needed for the good of the fabric of our community.
Well, it's a disincentive to have public get-togethers like this.
and it's essential for the fabric of the community.
Well, can I just ask a question, Anne-Marie? I spoke to an alderman just late last year after that man was bashed to death in town. There was a home invasion near KEMPSEY High Street. Then there were 2 other home invasions. And then we had a home invasion out here, lovely lady Ruth, got a piece of 4x2 across her face. And I said to this alderman, I said, Jesus, what are you going to do about this violence, this crime? And he said, well, it's not our issue, really. So I realise law and order is a state government issue, but I'm glad a couple of people touched on it here today, with safety as an issue, because I think 90% of us can take care of ourselves and we really don't need the council. But 10% of the people in this valley really need your help, and that would stop the violence and that would stop the crime. I stumbled across this report, Factors Affecting Crime Rates in Indigenous Communities, KEMPSEY, June 2012. It's just been released. I recommend it to you. It's fascinating reading. Not only do we have an extremely high crime rate in this valley, but they've actually listed what's wrong and how do you fix it. And I think I would like to ask the councillors, the people that have already been there, what did you do after you witnessed that bloke bashed to death? After you witnessed the 3 home invasions and this home invasion out here, what did you do?
I'm not a councillor yet.
Yeah.
But I was with Liz Campbell, one of the instigators for the home safety community meeting, and
right.
We had a meeting there at the KEMPSEY RSL Club. What we have to do, like I was speaking about before, is we have to come together as a community. We have to look after our neighbours. The police can't do it. They haven't got the numbers.
No.
The judicial system, I was with, what's her name? Me and a friend of mine from out where I live, we went, and we were the only persons ever to have a meeting with our local magistrate, talking about crime and what he's doing to help our community. And he told us that he's not allowed to listen to the community. He has to go with what precedence has been set. So, what?
Yeah, but Anthony, in all respect to your committee meeting, it's all very well. I mean, Blind Freddy can tell you what the problem is. There's 2 pockets of poverty in town there. They talk about it in here. There's 2 pockets of poverty in town there, at North and South KEMPSEY, where you've got festering unemployment, festering violence, festering crime, and it just festers along. And it staggers me that the educated elders of this community, the councillors, haven't gone to Oakshott, haven't hit him for some money. He got $9 billion out of the federal government for regional Australia. All these people need is a job. They'll tell you in here, poverty is the cause of the crime. You can lock them up 1,000 times. They're going to come back out and they're going to do it again because of the poverty.
Yeah.
Now, build a factory and make uniforms for the soldiers. Do anything. Think of something outside of the box so that they've got a job. Get them cutting lawns. Get them planting trees. Yes. I mean, it's all very well. Anyway, that's Peter.
One of the things that I've talked to a few people about that I'd love to see, and I believe quite a few years ago there was a similar thing. And you mentioned jobs and things, and I think I'll get back to that in a second. But one of the things that I was first going to say is it's highlighted to me, even in this last week when we've been doing pre-poll, the number of times where often people that probably live in the areas you're talking about will walk past, and when asked if they're going to vote today, basically turn around and say, we don't vote. It's they're not interested in being engaged.
They're outside of our
So
society.
they feel that they're outside. They feel like they're not part of the community.
Correct.
The way to actually make them part of the community, or they can't make them part of the community, but the way to actually try and actually embrace that sense of community is actually develop a system where they're actually required to take some of the responsibility. That they're required to actually be part of doing something. That's years ago, I believe there was a program, Red Jobs or some Red Schemes or something. That's now I don't like the idea of work for the dole or something like that. I actually believe in a bigger thing where somebody's actually going to get support from the community as a whole, that they need to be giving something back. It's and that's actually conditional on getting that support. It's and I would strongly see as a community that we would be developing our community if we were actually expecting people that were getting a hand to be giving part back.
Yeah.
Can I speak, please?
Yes.
Right. The council does still have a community safety and crime prevention committee. It was disbanded by John Val when he became mayor in 2008. I fought for that committee and we retained it. And we've had to fight to keep that committee because there are a lot of people who don't want anybody to be looking at what is actually being done. However, one of the things that, a lot of things have come out of that committee, but the issue is not simple by any means. And one of the bigger problems we have in this valley, and it is not restricted to Aboriginal communities, is the intergenerational, multi-dysfunctional families. Where when a police inspector tells you these children are safer on the streets than in their own home after dark, you start thinking, what is going on here? So we've addressed the issues on many levels. Basically, we've looked at the families, we've looked at the children, and to be perfectly frank, I am guilty of saying, and I make no apology for it, we have to draw a line in the sand. We cannot save everybody, so let us concentrate on the children and get them educated, ensure that they have breakfast. And I think you'll find most of the schools in the valley do a breakfast program. We've got a problem with truancy because the families are not available or don't care enough to keep the kids in school. You know, I think the government at one stage was fining families, was docking their settling payments if the children didn't go to school for a period of time. I don't think that's still happening. We have, on this particular group, we have representatives from housing. We've finally got someone from the Premier's department. We have police. We have education. Who else have we got there, Jen? A lot of government agencies.
Yes.
Yeah, but what have they decided to do?
We are driving this. Council's driving this.
But what are you doing?
Listen, and I'll
We're
tell you.
talking about it.
What's the plan?
The plan is to ensure that the children have an education, that there are opportunities for them for skill development and for employment. We then have to ensure that we have the employment opportunities available. There's a lot of employment opportunities in this valley, but the people have got to be skilled, knowledgeable, skilled and job ready. And that's the one thing that a lot of places aren't. Okay.
Yeah, Anne-Marie has a question again. Thank you.
Can I just add to that? We need something I just want to add to it because I'm not on council, so I don't have the insight. But our youth need to be kept off the streets. They need something to do so they're not idle. And there's an awful lot of crime in idle hands.
Right.
And not only that, it's just not being used to the betterment and to good community outcomes. And one thing I did see recently is I went down with a girlfriend to Port Macquarie and we went down to the skate park there. It is such a safe environment with barbecues around it. There's kids out there exercising with their friends, enjoying their time. They're playing outdoors, they're not sitting on iPads or playing Xbox, and they're really getting out in the community and enjoying themselves. And I know we have a park in town, but I think we can do better, and we need something for the young people. It's only one thing. We've got a good little skate park down here at Crescent Head. It's safe with barbecue areas and the beach nearby. And they need to be safe areas so that they're not areas where, you know, the drug deals are not on the side and that sort of thing. But I think, look, when I've been talking to people with families that are starting to get past that toddler stage and getting into that teenage years and high school years, they're saying we need stuff for the kids to do that's not Xbox or
Can I understand that to have all those safe areas, you need a lot of volunteers?
Yes.
Yeah, but
And where are they, where are you going
well,
to
in
get
the
them?
circumstance that I saw at Port Macquarie, the volunteers were just simply the families that were barbecuing and eating and enjoying and looking after their own families.
It's all
And
very
it was
nice.
such a,
Dysfunctional
Do you-
families.
yeah, but at least it's
You've got to
somewhere.
get the families.
Yeah, it is all about family.
about
It's
family
good values.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sue.
It's about family responsibility.
Dean.
Mark, one comment. I put to council a motion. We have Riverside Festival for the end of this year. Now, if we have more cultural activities and festivals, that may, it's a pride in the community. If we don't even do that, it's going to make it difficult. I mean, a festival is something we look forward to doing, be part of. And if we can bring that in, and they can come together with that, it may help. If we don't try, it won't work. But by putting it up, it may be a difference.
Dean, getting back to my point, can you answer me this? How in God's name did the council lose that girder contract?
HF Hands moved out of town. They
And
got
the
a
girder-
Port Macquarie,
But
spent
the bridge,
$7
the
million.
bridge girders, we lost that.
Yeah.
They were going to start a factory in South KEMPSEY, 100 jobs.
No, it wasn't. It was in Colorado. It was at Fredericton, and the land, there wasn't sufficient flat land for them because I was involved in it.
The girders,
The girders.
the bridge girders.
Yes, the bridge girders.
It wasn't South KEMPSEY,
No, it was Fredericton, the back of Fredericton,
and we lost that.
because there was insufficient flat land for it.
Industrial
And
land.
then Bucketheads went ahead, they've got loans off the government to build a new railway line, to build a new overpass. They went out on the limb in debt, now they've got it, and they're supplying beams from right down the coast, right up the coast.
That's what I heard.
That's correct.
Well, it's staggering.
HF Hands just moved out of town, last year, spent $7 million. I know HF Hands,
Why did he move out of South
because
KEMPSEY?
he couldn't get land here. But we'll spend millions of dollars in town doing stupid bloody things rather than developing land that we can get people to come in and build factories.
Get some jobs, get enough to spend.
Right, right. Okay, order. No more yelling out over there.
Excuse me.
Anne-Marie has a question.
Alright, you're nobody now, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much for taking your time and coming in and introduce yourself. That was really all nice. I've got a couple of questions, a couple didn't answer, so that was good. My main problem really with council in general, and it's been for a long, long time, I've been in the valley now for about 12 years, is community sense and communication and transparency. None whatsoever. I am so much fed up with it. It's not funny. I know, Mr. Greenby, you've been there and that's what you said, but I'd like to really know what the council, what the mayor, what the councillor are really going to do about it.
About
right? About transparency. I'm explaining myself now. We have got in here in Crescent Head, a couple of things has been done, like the yellow pass, the council is really quite happy to take it for their own thing. Unfortunately, if you've been from Crescent Head community, you will know that that actually has been investigated by the Malibu Club in the first place, and a rich man who actually donated towards that thing. The council only went part into it, so that's no good.
The council
okay?
did the work.
Now, we had no communication whatsoever with the whole community of Crescent Head. Only a little part, a little group of community of Crescent Head, which was a Mount Club, who was involved in that. Okay? Now, after that, we had the park, the road, Current Park Road. We had some meeting as well with that gentleman, Mr. Jinskins, super engineer. Sorry, excuse me. Have no common sense whatsoever. He doesn't understand what the community wants. He just took it over when we told him what we wanted. He said we will come back to us. I'm still waiting, but unfortunately the works have started and we've been in there for, and I don't know how long that's going to take. Now we don't even know if this plan at the end of the day is going to actually be right for our community. But he decided it was good for us. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Alright? It's the same with KEMPSEY. Alright, now we've opened KEMPSEY Main Road. Okay? It's a matter of fact that I'm part of that community. Not only Crescent Head, I live in the KEMPSEY Macleay area. So I do go to KEMPSEY and talk to actually some people that I know are there, own shops as well. They're not happy about that road being open. They have tried to communicate with the council and it's still not coming back at all to them. Alright? Only by little. Okay? Listen to the people. Please do listen and communicate back to them. If you think that you've got a good idea, let us know. We give you your idea, go back to it, come back to us.
Thank you, Anne.
Don't go ahead and do things.
Okay, Jim.
We're not stupid.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Jim has an answer.
When I came on council, excuse me, please. When I came on council, we had a committee here in Crescent Head. We also had funding. Every year they would say you've got $50,000 or $60,000 and the committee would decide what we're going to do with it. If they didn't have enough, they'd go back to council and say we need more. We had to serve in South West Ross. We've got a bit more money than you because what happened, it's like they're talking about in here, we should get a part of the carbon tax and all this. The community should get a part of the tax rate that they're paying. And let the community decide what they want to do with it. Now what happened? We had one over at South West Rocks. I was in that one too, the same as I was in the one here, so I think Jenny Spell was in it. Over there we had something like about $250,000 to spend, and over here I think we had about 100, didn't we?
90 something, yes.
No. And all of a sudden overnight it just disappeared. Drunk, it's gone.
That's right.
You cancel the committees, it's gone.
Yeah.
And then they sit down and they decide what they're going to do. We have a shed out at Southwest Rocks that burnt down probably 9 months ago. I asked at the last meeting, the questions on notice, hasn't we received our insurance? Yes, we have, but we're looking at the design of that area. We done that design 2.5 years ago with this committee, and now they're redoing it. And I'll tell you how stupid it is. You're talking about putting it on top of the hill, not down the bottom where it is. Now you put it up on top of the hill, you've got another drinking spot.
Well, that's what Anne-Marie's upset about.
How many times you had surveys and drawing and whatever for the caravan park? How much money do we have to waste when instead all that money could actually be used for youth program, for safety program, for health department, for education? But no, instead we're using it in useless surveys and these and that. I mean, a road is decaying, it's not funny. We want to go back to do whatever, stupid ideas when we should just look at basic, basic life. That's what we want, basic.
Hang on, Sonia.
I stand to be corrected, but I've been told that a lot of the hierarchy, the people who do determine everything, the civil engineers, all the people in the infrastructure of the people we employ, not you people we pay, I've been told that many of them do not even live in the Macleay Valley. And being a teacher in this area for 40 years, it's suspending kids, Mark and I, we know we've worked with Aborigines, we've worked all over the valley for many, many years, we know all the problems around here, we've right at the grassroots of it. It really astounds me to think that people who are the engineers and all that don't even live in our valley. Now, is that true or not? I don't know.
It is true.
It's just
now that is the real vibe of me, because that's where it all begins.
Can I finish where
Okay.
I started, Mark?
All right, Jim.
Sorry.
One more minute, Jim.
Sorry.
Well, they're asking about the roads. I put a question in the road, a certain road needs repairing. I got an answer back from the general manager. We're going to do it in 8 years' time. It's all right if you're replacing thermometers or ruddy cameras or TV sets. You can work that out. But a road, you've got to assess it as it is. In 8 years' time, there won't be a road there, there'll be grass growing.
Yeah.
It's terrific to have a 10-year design.
Looks pretty.
It looks pretty, but it's not doing it. All they do is talk about it.
Okay, for a business person's probably answer or reply to that, and I don't know whether council's been able to get it over the years, but to fix your roads, you've got to fix it properly. You need money for it. Where does the money come from? The only way, if my own business, if I have to have an expenditure, I make sure I have the money, or I put something in place. So at this date, I've got the money, the job's done, I buy the machinery or whatever it is. It needs to be not spending money that we don't have. We need to put it in place, like Stuart's Point are just about to get a new road from the highway into the town, and it was planned for 8 years ago. And it's just because we don't have any money. The council doesn't have enough money for the area we have.
Yeah, but Anthony, can I just come in on that?
Let me explain something as a council. Last year, this council earned $22 million in rates, and we spent $17 million in wages. Would you do that if you were running a business? No way.
That's why I say to you, that's why I say to people, like, we're in a democratic society. If the council's been run how you don't want to, democratically,
that's right.
Do it. And to reply about the question about people who don't live in the area, if you advertise a position, you have to take applications on their credit, on their merits. And a lot of people's jobs, someone who works for me, say, their job might entail a car. Now, that's what's happening in council. There's certain jobs that people have cars, and there's no necessary, the pool of people that we can get the right person for the job isn't just here in the Macleay. Unfortunately, there's people I know that live at South West Rocks and work at Port Macquarie. And that's just how our society is. And once the highway bypass and it's quicker, it's probably going to be worse and worse. And the other thing, and no one's mentioned it yet, and I was told that the state government has passed legislation for amalgamation of councils in 2 years' time. Yes. So we're going to be part of the Hastings more than likely.
Peter's been waiting.
Okay. Can I just say,
hang on. Just Peter, then one, then two, then three.
Just in response to transparency, one of the things that I was surprised at, because I've gone to council meetings the last 4 or 5 months listening to how things work. One of the motions that was put up there recently was something that I felt would have actually allowed the community to have an opportunity to really hear what's happening in meetings. Because that actually, if you can actually hear what your councillors are doing during meetings, during the open session where it's open for the public, you actually get a chance to see and understand and sometimes have your questions answered before they get steamed up. Just a second, because if you actually get a chance to hear what's happening at the meeting, you can get a little bit of the understanding of what's going on. Now, there was a nomination put up that those meetings actually be taped so that people could actually see them or hear them. That was actually declined and didn't get up. But I know I would be strongly supportive of the idea, because to me that's the first step of transparency, that you actually hear what's happening. Because after that, you've then got the next level, that what's happening in the council chambers isn't the end of what's happening with transparency, and that's another issue, and that's where it's actually policy development and encouraging the actual structure of council to actually be more open with their decision making. But I think the first step we can do as council is actually make sure you as the public get a chance to actually see what's happening
on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe evening meetings, not make it so more people can attend.
Yes. That was actually put to
Put to and knocked back a couple of times already.
Okay. Put it up?
Yeah, 3 times it's been rejected.
Put it up 3 times. There's other councils in New South Wales that tape them and broadcast them at the same time.
It's a great idea. I don't know why you knocked it back.
Because they're frightened.
We're talking at cross purposes here, Mark. There's two issues being discussed. One is the council meetings themselves and having the council meetings, and the other is motions that Jim has put up. They're two totally different things. So please don't confuse them.
But weren't they knocked back? I'm not confused.
The only thing that was knocked back was the taping of councils. The actual time of councils is to be decided at the next council meeting when the new council.
Two different ideas, but they both come to transparency. They're both about transparency.
Okay. Thank you. Question? Yeah.
As far as I can see, and I might be wrong because I'm a very basic person, but we're a big shire with a very small population.
and rate base.
Right.
And very restricted rate space. And what I'd like to know, as a mother of 3 kids that I'm hoping don't have to go somewhere else to get a job, is what practical ideas the current councillors have on behalf of the current council, and what practical ideas our nominated people have to bring more employment in, because there seems to be a lot of talk about theory, but is there anything really truly happening to expand our rate space, to attract people here, to establish industrial land? We're halfway between Sydney and the Gold Coast. We're exactly halfway. Why aren't we taking advantage of our situation, of our location?
And if I may say, our land is relatively cheap, which is exactly why we moved here. So, you know, we do have a strategic positioning. We need to look at the things that are the work to our advantage, such as being halfway between Sydney and Brisbane. We could be a hub for industry and for transport. We have a railway line, for goodness sake. We have lots of local trucking businesses. And I guess we need to have a plan that really works on the strengths of the area.
For instance, Sue, is there going to be a truck stop off the bypass? Is there going to be a pull-in for all the trucks to stop?
There will be a service centre.
There will be a service centre.
Yeah, there'll be a service centre, but we also need to have a transport hub somewhere close by there, and that's been worked on. Actually, MVT were proposing, we're looking at putting something where MVT is now.
Good.
But whether that's actually there or whether it's part of the service centre, isn't it now the question to be addressed?
KEMPSEY
It's private money though that's got to be spent, so there's got to be something to attract private money.
It's going to be,
And
there's going to be infrastructure there.
One of the things that I hear so often from developers is they get frustrated with trying to get development applications through. And I know that there is a developer that has been working for several years to get development approval for an industrial subdivision at the Southern Gateway. It's essential that happens. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure if it did, he has got plans to attract private money in there which will generate jobs. That involves a service centre. I'm also quite confident from what he has said previously that it would probably involve a spur line off the railway line which would provide the opportunity for warehousing and distribution and the transport hub that we need. We need to get our development process working more smoothly.
Exactly.
There are so many developers who said they got so frustrated with trying to get things through council they've gone to other neighbouring councils.
Dean.
One comment also too, we also need to value add in our business we have now. Now, I saw some figures recently that 1% extra of agricultural produce and outlay was on 60 odd jobs. Now, we are a prime growing area here. If we can capitalise on that and push that a bit harder, there could be some jobs for those who aren't technically minded or aren't qualified. And today we discussed many people here in the community who have no qualifications are doing the wrong thing. If we can push that a bit harder, encourage that to happen, those people who are doing the wrong thing may have opportunity to be on the land and more constructive. So 60 jobs, 1%. If we can push that again, it's a major impact for our shire. It might sound that 60 jobs doesn't sound much. It's a good start.
Well, look at that flower farm that collapsed at Stewart's Point, the indigenous flower farm. That was a tragedy.
It's being regenerated.
They were earning $40,000 a year. That could have been $400,000.
The main thing is getting that money. Our valley is so rich for agricultural use. The idea.
Sorry, Margaret, we've got one then 2 questions. Yes, up the back.
Firstly about what's going on in the KEMPSEY.
Sorry, Margaret. What? Never on there.
Both passed, and secondly about the issue Mark brought up about Indigenous people in this KEMPSEY, in particular being the second biggest Indigenous town in New South Wales. Has there been any thought, ideas, philosophies about making that a positive for KEMPSEY instead of always being a problem? You're not going to solve one problem with one solution. It seems to put up 2 points. Firstly, the cultural festival stuff, that would be the most simple beginning of something that should be much bigger. And secondly, the issues of organic farms, where they require a lot more human hands-on work. We've got tons of that.
It's
Why does the idea turn more into a positive? This can be maybe a worldwide famous town for its Indigenous.
Yeah, Bush Tucker. That's right. Yeah. Jenny, Bruce, Anthony. Yes?
Yeah, thanks for your question. We have done that in the past. I don't know why it's not happening now, but clearly to have festivals, and particularly cultural, Aboriginal Koori festivals, we need to be able to bring the community along with us. It's not about us as councillors telling them they need a festival. If anyone remembers here the Jindain Japan with all of the schools, that was fantastic. Bring that back. But we must have the Koori community coming along with us. And we're trying. We're trying.
Really, Greg brought up an issue of education. We're getting this generation education. Now I'm doing some work in the high school. And I've attended several classes there with the Aboriginal kids, and I'll be there, okay, is there anyone from the support unit or whoever that I can look after? Oh no, but you can look after those Indigenous boys over there. Oh, well, what do they do? Oh, they never do anything, so I leave them alone. Now that's happened more times than I can tell you, in more classes, and I've had them do work and had the teacher say, you've done more work there today than they've done all year. All I did was talk to them.
Where's the problem?
That's all.
Okay, Bruce.
So there's cracks in that.
We really need to work with getting appropriate mentors in place for the businesses that are failing to provide them with the appropriate help. We need to have mentors in the schools, and they need some special education. We really need to be working with our local federal and state members to get appropriate support for special education for our Aboriginal children. We also need, though, to work with the Aboriginal elders and give their community a sense of purpose, give them a sense of belonging, and we need to embrace them and have them involved in more of the activities that we have. If we can't give the Aboriginal community a sense of belonging as part of the community, we will never start to heal and close the problems. It's a huge thing. It will take time, but we need to continue to engage. And I was talking to a group the other day, and I would dearly love to see next time, I'll be working to encourage, if I can, through some elders that I was talking with, to get an Aboriginal member to nominate for council, and I'll be doing everything that I could to get them on.
Wasn't Chad one of the
But he didn't do it. He didn't do
We're
it.
trying to get that culture to engage with our become
Yeah.
white people.
But they don't.
Maybe they want to be this
But
surviving culture.
we can't force the white man's laws and methods and ways on them. We need to integrate and both work together and accept each other.
Accept each other, yeah.
And
the discussion about crime and stuff like that happens around, I mean, my business, and I'm not representing my business at all, but I've been in the security and glass business for 30 years. I know all about it. I know where it starts and where it finishes, and I've got very strong views on it, but it's something we can talk about. We'll be here for another 2 weeks. But I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce in KEMPSEY, and we've met with a guy who built a house across the road from me, David. He's the actual head guy at the university at Coffs Harbour. He wants to build a university in KEMPSEY. He had a meeting with us at the Slim Dusty Centre. He wants to utilise the Slim Dusty Centre for Aboriginal arts, Aboriginality, Aboriginal history, because he said it's a gold mine.
Yeah,
He
that's
said
right.
Andrew, can I come in on that? I took 12 kids from the vocational college to Uluru. We walked into an Aboriginal tourist centre there that the local mob has built. $27 million a year they earn from this tourist centre. There's not a tourist centre in there. I said to Bobby Mumbler when they got that $6 million, I said, mate, go and buy a bar. Buying a bar. The 3,000 tourists we get here every summer. Take them upriver. Tell them to take the time. But you've got no one on the elders with any business now. And that's where the council would be good. To come in and mentor them. Right. Margaret
there's a question.
A couple of things. You mentioned that in 2 years' time, amalgamation of councils will be compulsory. Will the community have any say in which way we go, Hastings or Nambucca?
I believe it's going to be something that's developed on rate base, because our rate base is wrong. Yeah, our rate base is about 40%. We need 60 or 70, and that relates to the size of the area, like our Macleay, versus how much rates we collect.
We must
Do
fight
we
it.
have any, the question was, do we have any, does the
Well,
community
Ned Bucker.
have any say in which way we go?
I would doubt it. I would doubt it.
We must fight this, because if we lay down and say, okay, they can take us over.
Yeah, I mean,
We're going to be the
forests
forecast
should be
again.
now, and they've already gone rogue once.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
And we'll end up paying for the glass house. So, no, stick over there.
Yeah. So Margaret's, on Margaret's point, is there any way we can not amalgamate? Can we say no?
That's fine.
State government.
At the same time, the state government is still saying that there will be no compulsory amalgamations. But you need to listen very carefully to how they are saying it. They've already said that they are going to rewrite the Local Government Act from the start, a complete rewrite. And again, but there's been 178 amendments since it was last written, so they're saying it's too bureaucratic and it needs to be completely rewritten. They're going to start from scratch. And as a part of that process, they're going to look at the function of local government, how it would most efficiently and effectively operate, and look at boundaries and how to best serve the community. What we need to be aware of is if we put our head in the sand, like they did in Victoria and Queensland, we'll get imposed upon us what is decided in Sydney. We as a community need to be vocal about it and tell our state politicians what we want and how we want it. There are already ads out there from the Shires Associations saying keep the local in local government.
Okay, yes. We have a question here, Michelle.
Excuse me, I have to go to the Business Awards in KEMPSEY tonight.
You go. Thank you for we're finishing now. Thanks, Anthony. Thank you very much. Last question.
Thank you for coming. I'd like to know who I'm voting for. I want strategies, I want ideas, I want to know what direction we're going. I don't want to hear people that say I'm passionate and I've got children and it's all about my community. I appreciate that fact. As a person that's been in the area for about 20 years, living here and residing for about 6, councils are always in trouble. We never have enough money. We all know this. We've got issues of, all the same across the board. As a tour operator who brings 5,000 people into this, this little village every year, it concerns me when I know of 4 suicides that have happened in this community in the last 6 months. When we are aware of some of the elderly people who can't always access transport, our Aboriginal elders aren't being listened to, our community groups that I go to, be it, rates payers associations, etc., and we're saying we can't use here because we don't have insurance. Oh, what about this? These really micro things that it is your job. I hope that you've educated yourselves well, because it will be a hard job. I personally, though, want to just get some ideas so I can walk out here today with a bit of a strategy to go, who am I voting for? As a tourist operator, what is your perspective of tourism in the area? This is Nature's Wonderland, and tourism
absolutely.
It could be a wonderful, boom for council. If you have an idea, I'd really like to know. And secondly, crime prevention is another big interest that I have. And that being, we don't have a police officer here very regularly. That's not your issue, but crime prevention is. I believe your funding levels are very low, something like $200,000 a year for a crime prevention project. I don't know how you could even run something half effective. I know, and that's beautiful, because you can if you are passionate, and I know there's a lot of passionate people in this area, but crime prevention, particularly the youth, particularly the Aboriginals, and also tourism. I need direction from you guys for our vote, and hopefully we can influence other people. What are you doing, Glenn?
Greg, yeah. Well, I've got my signs that I've got up. 3 Dungutty elders have actually put their signs up in the community, both at Middleton Street and at West KEMPSEY, because they've known me for many, many years, and they've come up and saying, well, we're voting for you because you might make a little bit of a difference. Now, a lot of those people, again, it's consultation, it's education, and it's giving people a little bit more of a choice about what they want, and as I said when I was talking before, is listening. It's even like I've talked to some people in the community about even like a smoking ceremony at South KEMPSEY Park, whereas like there'd be rangers there, maybe paid by council, and there'd be a smoking service. So everybody comes up from the Macleay and would be hanging there and just going, those rangers would be looking after the cars maybe, instead of, maybe cars and people being assaulted and broken into. So it's one of the things, like we said before, it's education, and it's like listening to people. One of the persons in River Street who's got their sign up who was saying, a service, we haven't got cars. How do we buy our food without a taxi on on a Saturday or a Sunday, you know? It's like we don't have a service. Can't we get us some type of bus service? So there's just all this, people say, there's all these little things that might need to be done all of the time, but it's listening a little bit more. It's the same as like listening in Redfern years ago.
Thank you, Greg. Sue.
Michelle, I'd like to have a go at answering your question. First of all, I think that we're always going to be in difficulty of having enough resources and to use those resources to achieve everything we want to achieve across the whole valley. So we've got to have a strategic plan, decide on our priorities, and pretty well stick with your priorities, because if you start going off on this is a good idea, that's a good idea, you don't all swim in the one direction on the agreed priorities. That's where I'm getting to. And a good strategic plan works on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And our biggest strength, I believe, is our natural beauty. I mean, for goodness sake, we've got everything from, I mean, we all know it, but we've got mountains, we've got valleys, we've got agricultural land, we've got the ocean, we've got everything here. And we've got arguably the best climate in Australia. For goodness, I mean, everybody says Port Macquarie, best snow, you know, I mean, we've got that same climate. Why aren't we capitalising on it? We can capitalise on that. That's about tourism. It's about all the outdoor activities that we can attract. Now, I love food, and we grow beautiful food here, but we don't really have a farmer's market. And one of the things that, like, we do have the little markets and that, and we sell food, but we haven't really embraced our agricultural background in the way that we can also cut out the middleman and help the producer to get the full margin. That's an opportunity. It attracts jobs. People come and spend money in the community. Gladstone Community Markets is creating a wonderful opportunity for that little village on a monthly basis. And it's because it's quality and it's well backed by the community and the chamber. Just to finish up, I love food, and I would love, this is my challenge, and I'd love to see us develop a regional dish. Let's have a competition. Let's get every restaurant involved that puts out a meal to use our produce to create a dish that is famous for this area. We've got seafood, we've got beef, we've got vegetables, you know, we've got bush tucker. Why don't we challenge ourselves to do something that's unique?
Has an Indigenous restaurant. You did right, Sue.
We have got opportunities to capitalise on, that's the point. Let's look at our strengths and work.
These are the last words from each person today. So you can go. Greg, Sue, Dean.
Sum up then. Years ago we had many trade shows that council would have done in Sydney and areas. That's now been put, unfortunately, by the wayside. I think we should bring that back, because by selling ourselves in the areas, opportunity people to come here, they see what we have to offer, and to do that. So when we lost the opportunity, I actually argue the case in council that we should continue to fund this, because it's important that we sell ourselves to the wider community. Now at these trade shows they have centres all over the areas, but we're not tending that. So unfortunately we're behind the 8 ball by doing that. So I think we should start tending trade shows again. We have good people and good salesmen. So by doing that, when the person comes past the door, what's about KEMPSEY? Give us a spiel on KEMPSEY, we're told the good parts about it, and our Shire, of course, not just KEMPSEY, the whole Shire. But the main thing is to sell our natural beauty, as Sue said, and attend some trade shows and be proactive. It won't come to us, we must chase it.
Thanks, Dean. Jim.
One of my major problems is we can't borrow money. And if you have a look around the other councils, how much they're on and how much we are, you go out, excuse me, you go out and you get a benefit from the government. They give you $100,000 and you've got to put dollar for dollar. You're getting your work done for 50%. If you borrow $1 million to build a road this year, and you've got to put $1 million to borrow to fix that road properly, not the way to do with patch and whatever, but do it once, you're doing that for 50%. And if you wait another 5 years, it's going to cost you another 100% again. And that's what the problem is. We talk about it. We talk about it. We had a put of a motion last week about the lights, or last meeting, about the lights at Southwest Rocks. They want $100,000 to put lights on. The kids are getting fat, they're playing up. The kids over there play soccer the same as your kids do everything. We haven't got $100,000. Betty Green moved the motion. We come back with a written report on how much it would cost. And I said at the time, it's a waste of time. It'll take them 3 months a would-be councillor was there and he agreed with me. The motion that came back is entirely different to what Councillor Green asked for. It gave an estimate that went from 75,000 to 250,000. It'll be next Christmas before they talk about the money, and that's the problem. They talk about it. Let's get up and do something about it. Think positive, not negative. Everything you do in there is we can't do. That's bloody rubbish. You get enough people with the same thought, you can do it.
Here. Bruce.
I will try to keep mine to the question about tourism, Michelle. What we need to do with tourism is we need to better promote the area. We need to develop a can-do attitude with the business owners broadly, the tourism operators, and we need to move forward as a valley, the whole valley. We've got such diversity, as Sue said, from the beaches, which are some of the best beaches you'll find anywhere in the world, through to the natural beauty that we've got in the upriver. There are so many things that people can do. They could come here for a week and do something totally different every day with a totally different experience. Now, we are starting to promote that better with Tourism New South Wales and with Destination on the Pacific. And with what the Country Club here has put out on TV recently with some ads that I've seen. We need to encourage more of that. We need to do that better. We need to develop a can-do attitude. Finally, one other thing that I would love to see this council do, and I'll be pushing for it if I get elected, we've got an induction program that goes over 19.5 hours on 7 nights, and we visit selected council facilities after that. There's nowhere in there that we're talking to the community, doing some team building and developing a forward vision as to how to move forward. I would really like to see this council, on an annual basis, invite expressions of interest for community members to come in and tell council what we're doing good, what we're doing bad, and what we need to do to improve it. And we should invite expressions of interest from business owners, tourism operators, the general person off the street, and we should also specifically invite executives of ratepayers and chambers of commerce groups. Dedicate one day to that, then have the councillors and the senior staff come together the next day, brainstorm that, do some team building, and come up with a forward vision to move the Macleay forward the way the community said the day before they want it to move forward. And then, as was said earlier, we stick to that plan and we develop that as our focus. And we review that when we go back to the community on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Fairly recently, one of them was a not real estate, sorry, that was a different one. Travel agent. One thing that actually struck me when I actually asked them, because I asked them the question, how much in the Macleay, how many things in the Macleay do you actually promote in your agency? And the simple answer was none. It's, to me, that's a massive worry, because that's sort of, to me, the link between tourist operators and people outside the Macleay. Surely, to actually have agents that actually are involved in booking people's trips and plans and holidays and things, it's important that they know what's in the valley and that they know what's going on, that they actually have a tie-in to actually getting people here. It's, it was crazy to me that she didn't actually book local things. I mean, anyway, that's one part. Second part, it's where I work, there's a lot of people involved with horses and things. That's that are from equestrian through to stock, and that's and I've been spending a fair bit of time with them, and it gobsmacked us when we realised, and many people already know, that the council no longer, or quite a while ago, decided they weren't going to be involved with the showground in terms of managing that. It was actually because it was run through a showground trust and things. Now the person running it's actually based in Coffs Harbour. It's
that's not true. It's up down
has it changed now? Has it?
Yes.
Not the manager in the showground that sits there, but the actual person.
Steve, who runs it.
No, he's the caretaker. He's the caretaker.
The showground trust.
The actual manager of it is the person who's licensed to do it is actually in Coffs Harbour. The actual manager, yes, lives local because he's got to be there to open up dates for people to camp there.
Okay.
Now, I'm getting it. My concern with that is basically we need huge festivals, we need big things, we need attractive things to get people here. It's, the showground is an amazing thing that we should be able to have the pinnacle showground for the coast. We live halfway between Sydney and Brisbane. We should be able to get 20,000 people coming to a massive regional show every year. We can't if we don't even have locals actually managing things. It's, somebody mentioned locals in senior management. That really, I recognize people can move and it's all that sort of stuff, but to actually have ratepayers' money paying the petrol to do that is crazy.
Okay, thanks Peter. Then we've got Betty, then Jenny. Greg started.
Tourism. One of the problems we've had and continues is that a lot of the tourist operators do not want to get involved in promotion of the area, and that has been going on for quite some time. Some of them, like yourself, Mesopotamia Lodge, and a couple of others, Heritage Guest House, really promote strongly, but they cannot carry the whole load themselves. We have got a lot of tourists who actually advertise in Sydney and Melbourne and fly people in to the valley, but they do not get involved in the promotion of the valley, so that's one thing. Just going as far as, so that is something we have to get going and get going strongly. In relation to the showground actually is under the care and development of the Department of Lands. They wanted council to take it over in its rundown state, which meant that the council, our rates would be spent on developing something which is really the responsibility of the state government. And that is one of the reasons why we are not running it now. If they get it to the standard that we can take it over, then we will consider it. But until they do that, current council is not prepared to waste our ratepayers' money on that when there's so many other things we need to be doing with it. So there's a sort of stuff.
Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Betty. Jenny.
Just back to tourism. I think KEMPSEY Council's doing a good job in supporting the tourism industry on the Clay Valley. I've noticed that some of our neighbours have, councils have opted out completely of promoting or helping to promote tourism. Closing down visitor information centres is quite common now, sadly, because I guess their rationale is that most people use the internet. But of course not everyone does use the internet, do they? So those brochures are really good. So I commend council for that. Secondly, there was a question about how we're going to fund all the things that we want to do in the Shire. And my solution for that, and it's going to take more than just Crescent Head people, we need to do what Queensland has done and abolish the Senate, the upper house, in state government. They take a lot of our money. We get what's called FAGS grants, federal assistance grants, directly from, should be, from the federal government, but the state takes their
50%.
It's an incredible percentage before we even see it.
As administration.
If we could run this state a lot better without the Senate, we don't need it. In Queensland they do that, and when they, their councillors are paid a proper wage, and you get what you pay for. Say that to so that's the bigger picture. If we really want to have money, down to the local government level where we need it and use it wisely. We've got to do something.
I agree. Thanks, Jenny. And thanks, everyone. I'd just like to point a freakish anomaly out to everybody. There's actually 9 candidates here today, so we've got our council.
Now, who's going to
and we're all very happy with you. And I think you'll probably get all of our votes. Thank you very much for coming to talk to us today.